I'm not sure about that.
Yes,
but I know that the president admitted that the fact that there were abductions in this country.
And the admission, then what happens? There must be answers and accountability, is it?
That is what now we need to follow up. And I think journalists have a role to play.
Yeah.
As human rights scholars, we have a right to, we have a duty to continuously document some of these things.
Okay.
And for me, this report is a very positive report.
Okay. And Wakili Sigei,
yes,
you happen to be another lawyer as well on the bench. What do you make of this? I mean, this gets back to the Grand Coalition government, Uhuru Kenyatta, and now President William Ruto. And it seems the common denominator is that we have been unable to address cases of gross human rights violations.
Thank you, Ayub. I wouldn't say we have been unable to address that aspect, because when you look at the headline, repressive regime is not a reflective of the story at page 3 and page 4. Because when you say repressive regime, in itself, it's an indictment of the fact that it hasn't progressed from when it started. When you go into the story itself, it digs into when it started. This is a 4.5-year reporting that happens. So the story tells us of where we were in 2020 and where we are in 2025.
2007.
Yes, but you look at the process is normally undertaken every 4.5 years.
Yeah, yes.
So in this case, they have actually touched on the regime currently and the previous regime. But then again, the story runs us through the issues which had been raised previously. Some, of course, we admit hasn't been fully implemented or haven't been enforced, particularly on certain aspects of human rights. But then I want to agree with my colleagues also that there has been improvement. When they list out on the issues that they've raised, particularly at page 4, where you actually took us to, what the civil society groups told the UN. This, I think, they should be around 13. When you look at the last 6, for instance, progress in housing rights, but affordable housing for poor lacking, forced evictions continue, energy supply unreliable and unaffordable for many, health budget, speaks about free education, speaks about low awareness of CBC. I mean, these are the things that Ayub, the government is attempting to do. We have seen lately what has been trending on the affordable housing programs within Nairobi and outside Nairobi, and the effort the government is trying to do. So however much we are saying there are certain areas on human rights which have not been fully protected, it is, on the other hand, something that the government has attempted to do. The president making reference to the fact that we would want to protect every human being, every human person. The attempts across almost all government agencies to ensure that anything that affects human rights, if it's about taking someone to court, it has happened. The unfortunate thing is that the aspect of the freedom of speech, the freedom of the media, always runs headlines sometimes like this. Otherwise, if I were to be the editor of such a newspaper, for instance, I wouldn't have been making it to scream as though it's literally dim, non-hopeful. You know, there is so much story behind the headline, which is negative, and the story which is telling us where Kenya was, where Kenya is now. The Attorney General indeed also was present in this particular session, and she gave her commitments in terms of what the government has done, in terms of the legislative agenda that has been put in place, in terms of the commitments that the government has previously done. Out of these 339 recommendations, the Attorney General indeed confirmed that we are in the process of, and the commitment is there to implement 232. So it is true, accepted. Those have been pointed out. The government is keen on doing some. Of course, we are not as white as snow, as we say. We are all human beings.
Certainly,
similarly.
Certainly you appreciate that investigations must be concluded and evidence must be tightened up for the 60 lives, for example, lost in the aftermath of the demonstrations last year. More than 1,146 were abused by security agencies, according to the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, which we fund as taxpayers. Yes, Senator Onyonga.
You see, the issue that bothers me is that it's like this report in itself is conclusive. And my argument is this report is actually not conclusive. it raises the very basic fundamental issues which have been raised severally. And I have heard my brother being very positive about what the president has said. My argument is, I expect the president to own up. Owning up is not saying, yes, that this thing actually happened. Everybody knows this thing happened. Right now, if we were to do a data analysis on the number of people who've been killed, the number of people who have disappeared, if you look at the cases of femicide that have been happening in our country, if you look at domestic violence, I mean, all these issues, whether we like it or not, are a reflection of what our country has become. And to me, what I actually expected the president to even do, for me to take him seriously, was for him to come and say, look, I'm even going to try and talk to the Chief Justice so that we can have special courts, which are particularly going to be dealing with issues pertaining to these particular events. Number two, the events that took place last year, June, especially after the Gen Z's demonstrations and the abductions and the killings which took place, I would like to know exactly what the conclusion is. The parents of these children want to know. Kenyans want to know. It's not something that you're just going to lightly just comment. In fact, when I saw the president talk, I thought this was something that was generated by AI. Because he just said, you know, this thing, I'm aware that people have been being abducted, so I've said it has to stop and it will never happen again. What is he saying? To me, what is it that the president is actually saying? Is he saying that we are going to have proper investigations? Is he saying that the police officers who are killing people will be taken to court and they will face the law? Is he saying that justice will be served? So these are issues, even when I really feel comfortable that he has owned up, I really want him, and many Kenyans want him, to own up, make sure that we have restorative justice, make sure that the individuals whose rights have been pendo. And you see the complexity that we have now is that we're in this broad-based government. And the people, some of them who are being killed, were being killed when we are demonstrating against the KK government. So these complex issues, I feel that the leadership should sit down and agree that this matter is resolved once and for all, and it must never happen again.
Okay, and responsibility, as you had questioned on the part of the head of state, equally there's a responsibility on your part as a parliamentarian.
Yes.
When the TJRC report was presented before Parliament, you were then a member of the National Assembly.
It's true.
Why did Parliament then shelve that very pertinent report which had documented historical injustices in Kenya?
Thank you. As you're coming to this issue, I refer to you what I've said on this floor, this house, this station, over and over and over. The moment you have your parliament being overtaken, being controlled, being usurped by the executive, all right, I've said here very many times, Ayub, we have been in that parliament, and there are times when the very sensitive, critical issues need to be interrogated by members of the National Assembly, members of the Senate. Most of the time, those things are just pushed aside. We are as culpable and as responsible as everybody else who has never done anything to make sure that this issue doesn't occur again. We are as culpable, as responsible as the people who have been given the responsibility within the law to make sure that this country is governed well, and it hasn't been governed well. So I'm saying that yes, the report has come out, and yes, I can take the issue or anybody else and talk about how the presidency, whether it is President Ruto's presidency or President Uhuru's presidency, as Kenyans, we have refused to face those things that are what I call our dirty linen. We've always pushed them to the side. We've always kind of pushed them under the rug and moved on like nothing happened.
Okay.
My honest feeling is that we need to look at these issues now and conclusively sort them out with restorative justice to make sure that those who've been harmed, who have been killed, who've been violated are compensated, and then make sure that it is agreed within the Kenyan political elite and the Kenyan psyche that human rights abuses and violations must never be allowed to happen in our country.
Hello everyone, hello guys. It's a new day, it's a new vibe. You have all seen that our President Ruto, he has said that he's ending abduction in Kenya. You all know that the cases of abduction, it has been so high and it has been something that everyone has been crying about. And today we thank God for the good news that he's ending abduction in Kenya. And let's pray to be so. It has been always at Kathy Afwande Lifestyle. Kindly don't forget to subscribe, like, comment and share. And don't forget always to tell a friend, to tell another friend to come and watch a channel where we drop news and legit things. Thank you for my new subscribers and thank you for my returning subscribers always. Be blessed. Bye and see you soon.